Well, my friends, once upon a time, there was a police department in a small country town that received a phone call from a very worried citizen who reported that he had seen the same car pass by his home 5 times. Now, that by itself would not have been enough to call out the police. But the caller continued. The car was driving in reverse. Police later reported that they had stopped a teenager after many complaints that a car had been seen going around the neighborhood in reverse. And when the police approached the stopped vehicle, the teenage boy had a very logical explanation for his very strange behavior. He told the police that his parents had let him use the car. But recently, they had reversed their decision when they discovered that he had already put too many miles on the car. So he said to the police, "I was just trying to reverse some of the mileage." Well, my friends, as most of us learn the hard way, in life, we cannot reverse the past, can we? And so if it is impossible to undo the mistakes of the past, then what hope do we have? Well, let's start with 3 questions. First, what are 3 most important lessons that we find in today's gospel? Second, what 3 words best describe God in this story of a father and his 2 sons? And third, what are the 3 most important things we need to know about God? Well, my friends, the answer to all 3 questions is the very same thing. Mercy, mercy, mercy. God's divine mercy. There is nothing which is beyond the divine mercy of God. And every one of us really needs to hold on to that truth, hold on to that reality. One way to see how mercy is so crucial in our lives is to reflect on a very common, constant human condition. I would venture to say that every person here today is carrying some kind of burden. And some of us are carrying extremely heavy burdens. Burdens of sorrow at some hurtful words we shouted in anger. Burdens of despair at some bad habit that we feel we just cannot change or get out of. Burdens of regret at some unkind thing we did against another person. Burdens of embarrassment in not doing something generous to help someone who really needed us, to reach out to them. To some extent, these are burdens of guilt. We're all aware of our faults and failings, the mistakes we have made. That inner voice called conscience tells us that we could have and we should have made better choices. But in some sinful situations, we cannot even begin to imagine how anyone could possibly offer us healing forgiveness in our lives. And so we give these sins the power of some very strong, unbreakable chains, allowing these chains to negatively weigh down our future actions. Unresolved guilt prevents us from living a joyful life, allowing the past to rule our lives. But then again, others might say, I don't feel any big burdens weighing me down. And perhaps this is because some of us are unconsciously weighed down by our failure to examine our very own life. Down deep, we sense our own smallness, our own pettiness, our own lack of love for others, and truly do want to escape from such an uninspired, self-centered way of living. So even if we do not consciously consider ourselves great sinners, neither do we think of ourselves as being worthy or capable of very much goodness either. And both groups of people need to hear today's gospel story to draw the immense consolation and spiritual support that we can experience in observing how the Father deals with each of his two sons. The younger son was consciously weighed down by the many deliberate, rebellious, and thoughtless things that he had done. And the elder son was unconsciously weighed down by his narrow, constrained view of life and his petty resentments and jealousy. Both sons needed mercy, the mercy of a father whose love was unconditional and all-encompassing. The father did not wait for apologies or mea culpas. He saw each of his sons just as he was and loved each son just as he was, as a beloved child. By immediately showing unconditional mercy to both sons, the Father restored their wholeness, their integrity. He makes it possible for them to grow beyond their sins and their petty guilt, to change their direction in life, and to truly know themselves as they are, beloved, unconditionally and always. My friends, what better reason for a party? What a great example of divine mercy. We should never forget that God always sees each one of us as we truly are and loves us constantly, yet still urges us on to new spiritual growth. When we experience and accept how tenderly God loves us, we forget our guilt, and we rush to spread this good news of God's mercy everywhere and to everyone in our lives. My friends, let us not hesitate to open ourselves up to the incredible mercy that God has for each and every one of us.